Welcome back to IAS Net Study. We were discussing ethics in public administration, and this is the ethics series. I think this is the 39th video in this ethics series. And in the last video, we talked about conflict of interest. Conflict of interest is one among the ethical dilemmas. So we talked about conflict of interest, and we talked about how to manage or how to handle this conflict of interest. This we finished. Now let's talk about how to resolve ethical dilemma. From a larger perspective, let's talk about ethical dilemma and resolution, how to resolve the ethical dilemmas. See, ethical dilemma, it is a situation where you have to select one option. There are options in front of you and you have to choose one option out of it. See, here the situation is that whatever the option you choose, ultimately you are going to compromise one or other value system here. So here you have to make one choice. There are choice in front of you, A and B, and you are going to make one choice here. But you remember that it is not about the perfect solution. It is not about universally correct solution. See, both have flaws, both have positives, both have negatives. Now you are selecting one which is best out of it. So it is here you are giving ethical reasons for your selection, and this ethical reason, it is not about finding flawless answer. It is not about finding a perfect solution or 100% foolproof solution. No, that is not the case. Here you are finding defensible decision. Whatever the decisions you are choosing, you have to defend your decisions with proper reasoning. See, this is what ethical dilemma and dealing with ethical dilemma or finding resolutions to ethical dilemma deals with. To resolve ethical dilemmas, it is important to first understand what ethics is not. Ethics, we know that these are accepted standards, maybe at social level or at an organization level. Now, in order to find solution to these kind of ethical dilemmas, you need to understand what ethics is not. What is not ethics? Let's see, ethics is not a religion. Religion is the usually whatever the rules and regulations, whatever the norms, it is usually to the those people who belong to a particular religion. But ethics, it is beyond the religion. Ethics secular in nature. It is not restricted to particular community. And then ethics is not law. Ethics is also beyond the law. Actually, law, it has clear procedures, clear legal norms, and it is punishable if you don't follow these norms. But ethics is not law, like very strict framework. It is beyond that. There are interpretations are there with respect to ethics. And ethics is not a cultural norm also. Even from one culture to another culture, a lot of differences are there. So ethics, it is not that you won't see these kind of differences when you think of moral considerations, when you think of ethical considerations. So ethics is not cultural norms. Ethics is not science or pure rationality. Science, it has a very strict framework, very strict procedures, that evidence based decision making. Ethics is not science or 100% rationality. Here also the subjectivity comes in, and your decision making, your morality, somewhere it is related to your conscience, it is related to your understanding, it is related to various aspects of morality here. So it is not 100% science, or it is not pure rationality. And ethics is not emotional alone. Emotions can be manipulated. So ethics is not something manipulative in nature. Ethics is something standard. It provides the framework. So these are not ethics. When you understand this, it is easier for you to eliminate or resolve ethical dilemma, right? Resolving ethical dilemma requires balancing values, balancing consequences, balancing rights and the duties. And how do you balance these things? Through the moral judgment. You have certain moral knowledge, apply this moral knowledge in a situation, and balance the values, balancing consequences, balancing rights and duties through a moral judgment. So this is how you resolve a ethical dilemma. By avoiding wrong justification and grounding decision in the constitutional values, public interest and human dignity, one can arrive at decisions that are ethically defensible, even if it is not universally perfect. You may not get the perfect answer. Maybe not everyone is going to accept your decisions, but still you are going to get a ethically defensible option. So this is with respect to resolving ethical dilemma. Now let us see the different approaches to solve the ethical dilemma. The first approach is that utilitarian approach. See, one thing I want to tell you, we are going to discuss around 5 approaches here. There are options here, there are ethical dilemmas in front of you, and you have to solve this ethical dilemma. Here we are going to talk about 5 ethical dilemmas, and remember that these 5 ethical dilemmas, they apply for different situations. It is not that one there is a utilitarian approach here. This approach, you cannot implement this approach for all the situations, all the circumstances. No, this is not going to give you the results. The end results will not be ethical. So it is up to you to select which approach suits this particular situation, which approach suit that this particular circumstances. That thing you have to keep in mind. So first is utilitarian approach. Different approaches are there, and you have to adopt, you have to apply these approaches according to the situation, according to the circumstances. So utilitarian approach. Utilitarian, you know the meaning of utilitarianism: maximum benefit to maximum number of people, or greatest benefit to greatest number of maximum number of people. So this is what utilitarianism. Utilitarianism ultimately it deals with consequences. It is end based approach. If the end is consequences are positive, then it is considered ethical. If consequences are negative, then it is considered, whatever your actions, whatever decisions, they are considered as unethical. So this is utilitarian approach here. So utilitarian approach is a moral principle which holds that ethically right actions is the one that produces the greatest balance of benefits over harms for a maximum number of people like affected. Whatever I told you, it has been explained here. And it focus on outcomes, it focus on consequences rather than intentions or rules. This is what utilitarian approach talks about. Ultimately, you have to resolve an ethical dilemma. In front of you there are two options, option A and option B. You are confused now, you have to make a decision, you have to choose one. Now you are going to choose A. The reason is that if you look at the end goal, the outcome, the consequences, it is more positive in A than B. That is the reason I am selecting option A here. So there is ethical dilemma. I have solved the ethical dilemma through this utilitarian approach. And utilitarian approach follows as end-based mechanism. So end-based mechanism deals with consequences, it deals with outcomes. So the out of the two options A and B, A provides me positive outcomes. The consequences of actions I've taken on A, that will be positive. That since there will be positive outcome, there will be positive consequences. This is considered as ethical. There was a dilemma to choose an option between A and B. Now I have chosen option A. So what is the steps again? Identify the possible course of action. There are two actions here, A and B. Assess the benefits and harms of each option of all for all stakeholders. I've assessed option A and option B. Now I came to a conclusion option A has more benefits here. Choose the option that maximizes overall welfare after considering cost and negative impact. So these are the steps in the utilitarian approach. So you understood utilitarian approach and you understood steps. Now application, how do you apply this? See, I told you that all these approaches, you cannot apply these approaches for all situations universally. You cannot apply these approaches because every approach, whether it is utilitarian, virtue based, or a common good approach, they the adaptation is with respect to the situation. It is with respect to the circumstances. So here application is that there are situations where you cannot satisfy everybody. You have to make some level of sacrifice. In those kind of situation, you can go for utilitarian approach. As a simple example, half spa. See, not everybody is going to be happy if AFSPA is going to be implemented in particular place. But if you look at the larger benefit for the protection of nation or the national security one side, and another side there are restrictions on individual freedom. So here, when you look at the priority, national security gets the priority over individual freedom here. Again, people there in that region, they are not happy here. They have been affected, but under the utilitarian approach, what exactly it means? Greater benefit to maximum number of people. Here it is impacting the entire nation. The security aspects are impacted. So this is considered ethical under utilitarian approach. See, the same aspect, the same AFPA, if you look at the rights based approach, it is not considered ethical. Their individual rights comes into the picture rather than the consequences, rather than the outcome. So this is what I am telling you, that application depends on situation or application depends on circumstances. For this particular thing, for this particular situation, utilitarian seems ethical, but if the situation is different, if the circumstance is different, then this approach become unethical here. Now another example is that government want to build a nuclear power plant in a particular location, and people in that location, they are not happy. But if you think of energy security for a country, we need some or other place, we have to build it. So from an energy security perspective, from a economic development perspective, this considered ethical, but from an individual perspective, this becomes unethical. So here maximum benefits, say because of this nuclear power plant, maybe 1 lakh people, they are going to get electricity in a cheaper rate. But when it come to the people who have affected, maybe 100 or 1000 people in that particular vicinity of that geographical location, they are impacted here. Here the maximum number of people, 1 lakh people, they are getting the benefits out of it. But the number of people who have negatively impacted is around 100 people or 1000 people. So the greatest number of benefits can be seen. Based on this logic, the nuclear power plant is considered ethical. So these are some of the examples where you can relate this concept of utilitarian approach. So utilitarian approach is one of the approaches to resolve ethical dilemma. Again, there are options in front of you. There are two options, A and B. You have to make a choice. And now, how do you make choice? And the situation is that you cannot satisfy everybody. So in this kind of situation, I am going for utilitarian approach. So based on utilitarian approach, I am selecting option A. So this is how you resolve ethical dilemma. This is one of the approaches. Now we talked about utilitarianism approach and what are the applications, all these things. But there are some negative aspects also. Let's see the criticism also. Criticism is that, see, we are talking about, take an example of nuclear power plant, we are talking about energy security from a larger perspective. Yet yes, it is going to help a lot, huge number of people and their electricity or power demands. That is fine. But what about these 1000 people in that geographical location? They are leaving, they are going to face the displacement, they are going to lose their livelihood. All these things are there. Here what happens, you are ignoring the justice, you are ignoring rights of an individual. Positives we have analyzed, but now criticism also we have to see. So it ignores justice, it ignores rights, and end justifies means, again, we are under utilitarian approach, we are looking at the consequences. Consequences, if the consequences is helping maximum number of people, then it is positive, or else it is negative. But in the journey of these ends and means, we are focusing on ends, but we are compromising means. Again, this is another criticism here. And there is a risk of tyranny of majority here. Nuclear power plant, it is helping 1 lakh people, it is helping this, but we are taken these people not into the consideration, they are taken for granted, these 1000 people are taken for granted here. So here there is a risk of tyranny of majority. You want to keep these 1 lakh people happy, but at the same time you are ignoring the happiness of these 1000 people. And another thing is, how do you equate the happiness or the dignity, justice, these kind of things, culture, human rights, to maybe this 1000 people? How can you compare the aspect of dignity, aspect of justice to quantitatively, with the number based analogy, number based comparison? How can you do it? How can you compare one life? How can you compare dignity of an individual? How can you compare the time? All these things, again, it is very difficult for measurement. These are some of the criticism. So it is difficulty in measurement, it ignores justice and rights, and ends justifies the means, and then risk of tyranny of majority. So this is with respect to utilitarian approach. And the next one is rights approach. Again, right approach also, there are options in front of you. You have to make a choice. Again, you have ethical dilemma and you have to make a choice. Now I am making a choice through right based approach. What is the rights based approach? Before that, let's talk about right. What are the rights? Right is that I have certain moral claim, I have certain legal claim. Government has given me, or the constitution has given me, or society has given some moral right. So these are the claims, these are certain privileges I have. See, whatever the decisions I am making, I am think that I am a civil servant and I am making a decisions. Whatever decisions I am making, whatever the action I am taking, if it is not violating the rights of others, then it is considered ethical. If my actions are violating the rights of others, then my actions are considered unethical. So based on that, I am making a choice. Now there are options in front of me, A, B, C. Now I have to choose one option here. Now I will go through with each and every option. Then I will realize that which option is minimum in exploiting or violating the rights of others. So based on that, I make a choice here. So this is one of the ways to handle, to manage ethical dilemmas. So here, rights approach is based on that individuals have certain basic rights. Every individual has certain basic rights, and all these rights must be respected at all circumstances. I have certain privileges. I have certain legal and moral claim, and my privileges, my legal and moral claims have to be protected, have to be respected. And an action is morally right if it respects and protects fundamental rights of all individual affected by action. So this is how I decide. So out of these three, which option is respecting individual rights, I am going to choose this. Again, you cannot apply rights approach in every situation. It is not based on the circumstances, based on the situation. You have to apply this particular approach. And what are the steps? Again, identify the individual rights affected by decision, identify the rights involved. I have a right to life, right to liberty, equality, all these rights are there. Identify the rights, then examine whether any of the option violate these rights. ABC, there are three options. Now see that which option violate these rights, and prefer the option that protects rights, avoids the violation, and go for those particular. Here A, it is avoiding violation of rights of others. Now I am going to select this particular right. So this is how I am handling ethical dilemma. Now, what is the advantage? What are the merits of rights approach? Here, it protects human dignity and it protects individual autonomy, because it is protecting the right of a individual person here, and acts as a safeguard against exploitation and abuse, because it is going to protect every individual right here, and it prevents the majority from overriding the rights of minorities. See, in the last approach, utilitarian approach, we talked about taken for granted. There are 1,000 people where displacement happens, and we have taken for granted these people because 1 lakh people are getting benefited. Now we are ignoring this under utilitarian approach, but under rights approach we are considering their rights also. We are not ignoring rights of these 1,000 people. The rights approach, it aligns with constitutionalism, it aligns with human rights framework. Again, this also has some criticism. Positive, we talked about, we understood what is rights approach. Now there are criticisms also. What are criticisms? See, rights, these are the privileges, these are legal claims, these are moral claims, right? You understood that. But even these rights are not absolute. There are reasonable restrictions are there. If you look at the constitution, when you read polity in fundamental rights, it mentions about reasonable restrictions. No right is absolute in nature. There are reasonable restrictions. Now you are talking about rights approach, but every right has reasonable restriction. So there is a contradictory nature can be seen here. This is one of the criticism. And the second criticism is that usually you might see there might be some kind of conflict between two rights. See, there is one right, it is right to equality, and there is another right. In our constitution only, we have a right to equality and we have a right to property also. See, there are contradictory in nature. Right to equality is one side, right to property in other side. So when you make a decision here, which one do you give the priority? For me, right to property is the priority. For you, right to equality is the priority. Now the conflict happens here. So the conflict arises here. How do you solve these kind of conflict? This is another criticism. And the third criticism is, for individual right, it is fine, but when you think of collective well-being, see, you want to build a nuclear power plant for the energy generation, for energy security. Now, since it is affecting 1,000 people there, you are caring for 1,000 people, that is fine. But what about 1 lakh people? If there is a energy security, it can create employment, there will be economic development, there will be social development, there will be development of infrastructure. There are so many aspects, so many dimensions are there. You are ignoring this collective benefits for this individual rights. Now this tussle, it is going to be there under rights approach, so this is going to ignore the collective welfare. So these are some of the criticisms of rights approach. We talked about utilitarian approach, we talked about rights approach. Now, there is one more criticism. Blind protection of rights may perpetuate inequality, can lead to the social injustice. The same example of a nuclear power plant. See, for every development if the rights approach entered into the picture, then everything is going to be stalled and nothing, no development is going to happen. So it can lead to the social injustice also in a different way. And rights approach is essential for protecting human dignity and limiting state power, but this cannot be applied in isolation. Whenever you want to apply this rights approach, you must make sure that you must balance it with consideration of justice, you must balance it with public welfare, you must balance it with social harmony. Then outcome is going to be positive, outcome is going to be ethical, it is going to lead sustainable decision. So this is what rights approach is talking about. And the third approach, it is justice approach. Here again there are option in front of me and I have to make a decision. And how do I make this decision? Again here my decision, it is based on justice. Now the fact, let's understand aspect of justice first. See, if you look at the virtue ethicist, uh, Plato talked about it, Aristotle talked about it, and then if you look at the John Rawls theory of justice, there also we talk about justice also. So justice, this particular aspect has been discussed a lot even in the past also. So ancient times justice has been discussed, medieval has been discussed, even in the modern contemporary times also justice has been discussed, this approach has been discussed directly or indirectly. Now let's understand the meaning of justice. What exactly justice is? Justice is giving giving each person what they desire, what they deserve. It is giving you what you deserve, that is the justice. In a simple way, there are three people, one maybe X, Y, Z, and he is 10 years old, he's 15 years old, and Z is 20 years old. Now, the food capacity, now you have to distribute the food. For 10 years old, I'm giving 500 grams, and 15 years 600 grams, and 20 years I'm giving 700 grams of food. Here, see, I am giving each person what they deserve or their due, what the bodily needs. Based on that, I am distributing the food. It is not equal. Giving everybody 500 or giving everybody 700, that is equal. That is considered as equal. But here it is justice. It is, this is based on certain criteria. See, I cannot, even the 10 years old kid, that kid does not need number of calories required for a 20-year-old person. So it changes. So according to what person desire, what person needs, what is their due, according to that I am allocating my resources. So here also, you in your decisions also, you are taking decisions based on this analogy, based on this concept of justice here. And the fundamental, the idea, this particular fundamental principles, it goes back to the Aristotle gave this idea: equals should be treated equally, unequals unequally. So this is the concept of justice. It is, justice does not mean that equal, everybody is equal, that equality, yes, we want that equality, but in certain situation, in certain circumstances, justice, we want this concept of justice. Under this justice, whenever we talk about justice approach, two aspects you need to keep in mind. The first is justifiable differentiation, another one is unjustifiable differentiation. Differentiation is the distinction or the distinguishing. So justifiable differentiation is that some kind of differentiation is there, these kind of differentiation are accepted, justified. The reason is that these differentiations are based on certain criteria, the same whatever we saw in the last slide, XYZ, the 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Here food quantity that has been given, it is accepted because it's, there is a factor of justice here. Justice is that age factor and the need factor. Based on that, food has been served, so there is a justifiable differentiation. So this is one type of differentiation. And there is another type of differentiation, unjustifiable differentiation. In unjustifiable differentiation, as the name indicates, this differentiation is not accepted. What is the differentiation? If the same food, there is a differentiation, I'm giving one person 500, another 600 calories of food, another 700 maybe grams of food, this what I'm giving. But here this is not based on age, this is based on gender, or this is based on race, or this is based on some place of birth. Based on these criteria, if I give food, then it is considered an unjustifiable differentiation. Here treating individuals differently based on age, sex, race, religion, nepotism, then this is not accepted. So whenever you think of justice approach, make sure that you have a certain criteria, then only it is accepted, so then only it becomes ethical. So you have to make a choice, A, B, C, there are options, and you have to make a choice here. I am going to choose the option C here. Why I think this is ethical? The reason is there is a justifiable differentiation. So this is the reason here. Now let's see the criticism. What are the criticism here? See, criticism is that justice, it is not equality. Justice, the concept of justice is different here. This is not the sole principle to for a decision maker. See, along with justice, you have to include other moral claims such as rights, social welfare, public interest. These things should also be taken into the consideration, but here in the justice approach we are not taking these things into consideration. So this is one of the criticism. And second criticism is that social welfare versus individual justice, you can consider as a social justice and the individual justice. Social justice talks about overall well-being, individual justice talks about individual well-being. Now what priority, which one do you give the priority here, whether to the society or to the individual? So where will be the priority, what will be your priority? Again, deciding that, again, it is a task here. Again, this also creates some kind of conflict here. So this is the second criticism. And the third criticism is, in while defining justice, I talked about what person deserve. So here, who is going to decide what what other person deserve? There is a subjectivity to it. Now my, if I think that I deserve this particular job, and you think that you deserve this particular job, now my explanation will be different, your explanation will be different. It may be ethical, my explanation will also be ethical, your explanation may also be ethical. Now subjectivity is there while deciding this factor of deserve. So again, this is another criticism of justice approach. So justice approach ensures fairness, it ensures equality. See, rather than equality, the main objective here is the fairness. The justice approach predominantly focus on the fairness, and eventually talks about equality in ethical decision making. But this, again, this cannot be applied in isolation. So again, it depends on circumstances, it depends on situation. So decisions often require balancing justice with rights, utility, and social welfare to achieve ethical legitimacy. This is with respect to justice approach. Now the next approach is common good approach. Again, you have option A, B, C, and you have to make a decision. A, B, C, D, there are four options in front of you, and you have to make a decision. So there is a dilemma. How do you choose this? Choose this. Now you apply common good approach. What is this common good approach? What exactly the concept of common good? Common good is that it is a collective well-being. So you are considering entire community as one unit. It is not about individual person, or it is not about certain group of people. So whatever decisions you are making, whatever actions you are taking, everything should help collectively. It should help everyone in a community. Those, if any of these options are supporting that, I am going to choose that. I have a dilemma, now I have to find a solution. Now if I follow common good approach, then I will go for that particular option where option is going to satisfy everybody. It should go for a collective good collective good, collective well-being. So this is collective good approach, sorry, common good approach. Common good approach emphasizes ethical decision making that benefits all or most of the members of community, rather than just individual or selected groups. It focuses on creating conditions that allow everyone to flourish. See, the ideology behind this common good is that you are giving these benefits to all the people in a community. So I am a part of this community, so eventually this will reach me also. If government is giving free healthcare services to everybody, I am a part of this community, I am also going to get this free healthcare. So here it is going to trickle down to individual level. So this is what common good approach. And there is a dilemma, I have to make a decision. In those kind of decisions, I can go for common good approach also. Again, it depends on the situation, it depends on the circumstances, all these things. Again, what are the key principles here? Key principles of common good approach here. Common good include shared social goods, usually shared social advantages. So accessible and affordable services. If my decisions, if my actions are going for affordable public services, it is supporting accessibility like healthcare, education, transport services, then I am going to select that option. Or effective public safety security system, there is a peace and stability at national and international level, legal just these are some of the uh, different dimensions of collective welfare. So this is common good approach. Now applications. So how do you apply this common good approach in the real life situation? Ethical decision should aim to establish and maintain common good. So my objective is that it has to create this collective well-being, common good. Individual and institutions may need to accept modest sacrifices. Whenever I want to go for common good approach, it when the application is to happen, there will be slight sacrifices. See, if I want to give a free healthcare facilities, in order to give free healthcare facilities, everybody has to give some kind of contribution. I have to pay 1000 rupees, you have to pay 1000 rupees. So I am maybe filing taxes, giving taxes. Some way I have to contribute, some way I have to give. So a certain level of sacrifice, whether it a financial sacrifice or some other kind of sacrifice, or else I have to go and work there for some days in a month. Somewhere I have to make my sacrifices for a collective benefit. So this is another, when you apply this also comes into the picture here. And society oriented towards common good is more cohesive and sustainable than one dominated by selfish group. And this kind of common good approach, it makes social well-being, collective well-being, and usually there will be social cohesion in these kind of societies. If there is an individualistic society, people just focus on their own self-interest. But for collective common good approach and collective welfare, everybody look after for each other. So this is some positive aspects of common good approach. Now what are the criticism? Again, here also we have criticism. The first is pluralism challenge. Pluralism challenge is that, see, I am also paying tax, you are also paying tax. Now government has certain budget, it has around 50 lakh rupees. Now the situation is that government want to use this particular 50 lakh rupees for some activities, or some exercise related or something, these kind of activities. Me, I give my suggestions. My suggestion is that I want indoor stadium, and another person, your suggestion, you want some park actually where you can jog and you can do your exercises. So here pluralistic idea. See, my idea of exercise or welfare, it is different from your idea of welfare. Again, this tussle is going to arise. That is one of the criticism under the common good approach. Another is free ride problem here. See, in our country, free bus rides have been given, but how many people they are paying taxes? There are 140 crore population, only 4 crore people they are filing the IT returns in our country. So what happened? Rest of them, they are not, indirect taxes they are paying, but direct taxes they are not paying here. So now how does it feel to a person who is paying the tax regularly and is not enjoying much, but another way you are not paying any of this tax and you are getting all the benefits out of it? So it might create free rider problem here. And then individualism and a sacrifice. See, again the same thing, I am paying tax and I feel like I am sacrificing a lot when you compare to the other person. So that uh, tussle, again, individual versus sacrifice, individualism versus sacrifice, then I might think that what is the necessity of giving all these things? Let me focus on my own thing rather than thinking about collective being. So this kind of attitude can also arise in a society under common good approach. This is another criticism. And the third is unequal burden sharing also. See, I am paying it, even though I am paying it voluntarily, but still this is burden on me. So burden is not equally shared. It is, you are not paying tax, I am paying tax, then there is an unequal burden also. Even though I am paying it voluntarily, even though I am giving it for a collective well-being, but still there is an economic burden on me. So again, if you follow this common good approach, these are certain criticism you have to keep in mind also. So solving case studies also, you have to keep these things in your mind. Whatever the approach you follow, it is fine, but give proper uh, explanation to it. Be it defensive ethical choice. And finally, we have a virtue approach. Initially, utilitarian approach, that was end-based mechanism, that followed end-based mechanism. Now, virtue approach, this follows means-based mechanism. Here, again, you have options A, B, C, D. You have to make decision. You have to choose one option here. Now, how do you choose this? Choose the option here. Your way to solve this dilemma is through the virtues. You go with particular option where decisions are based on values, decisions are based on positive attributes, decisions are based on virtues. That's where you are going to make a choice here. So virtue approach is virtue approach to ethics focus on character and virtues of individual rather than consequences. You're focusing on the means, virtues, positive attributes, not on the consequences. Ethical action is guided by collective cultivation of good character traits and ideas. What are the key principle under this? A person acts according to virtue, they actively pursue to reach moral and social ideas. And especially you have to answer it from a civil servant perspective. For you, if I am a civil servant, what are the virtues? What are the virtues of a civil virtues I have to follow? What are the virtues uphold or upheld by a Constitution of India? The idea of secularism, the idea of democracy, equality, integrity, honesty, impartiality. These are virtues to me. Me being a civil servant, I have to uphold these value system. I have to uphold these attributes. So if decisions, if any of these ABCD four options are there, if any of these four options, if they satisfy any of these virtues, then I am going to choose that. So me being a civil servant, see, at your individual capacity, when you're taking a decision, it depends on individual virtues. But as a civil servant, these are virtues, foundational values of civil services, and your decision is based on these virtues. You are making, there is an ethical dilemma, you have to make a choice, and your choice is based on these virtues. Ideals and values are set as goals to be achieved through one's action. So these are ideals, these are certain values. Using that, my whatever my action, it should be based on these values. See, this is at civil servant as a professional, for your professional conduct. And for my individual, for my personal conduct, I am a follower of Gandhi, so I inculcate values of Gandhi. Now, what are the values of virtues you can, major values and virtues you derive out of the life of Gandhi? Non-violence, truth, all these things. Now, in my personal capacity, my decisions, my actions are based on these virtues, virtues of truth, virtue of non-violence. Based on that, I am going to make a decision. I am going to choose options. There are options in front of me, and I am going to choose one option based on these virtues. So at professional capacity, virtues are different. At personal capacity, my individual morality is different. I make decisions based on these virtues. So this is with respect to virtue approach. Application: ethical decisions are guided by character and integrity of individual rather than only by laws, rules, and outcome. See, usually what happens, uh, virtues, this is fine. You're making a choice, but make sure that it has to complement with law also. See, my morality is something different. If it is beyond what exactly law states, then it is going to impact the decision making. So it has to be in balance with laws, rules, outcome. This also I should keep in mind. And civil servants practicing virtue approach act in alignment with, see, I am a civil servant and I am following this virtue approach. Now what happens, virtues, I have certain virtues in my life, but these virtues should align with my professional virtues. These virtues, my individual virtues, should align with social virtues. So because I am a part of this community, I am a part of this organization, public organization, so my virtues should be in alignment with professional virtues, public administration virtues. My virtues should be in alignment with social virtues. So this is application. And again, it is all, this virtue approach, it has also got some negative, some criticism. What are the criticism? Usually virtues are defined by others. Usually, how exactly my virtues, I derived my virtues through my family, through my education, through my social norms, through my culture, economy, all these things. So here my virtues, it is developed, my virtues are dependent on society, environment, or virtues defined by others. Again, others virtues are impacting my virtue system. This is one of the criticism. And second criticism is virtues, if you look at the even some of the me being a civil servant, I am inculcating virtues of constitution. Now, constitution, it depends on who is ruling and who has made the constitution. We had a constitution before also, British crown constitution. We are following the whatever the rules regulation made by British. After that, Indian government. So here again, that time also there was virtue approach, but there the virtues are defined by different state, different authority. Now virtues are defined by different authority. Here virtues change from ruling the class. There Britishers, they create whatever they said, those attributes were virtues. Now whatever government of India is saying, those attributes are considered virtues. Here virtues are defined by state and authority, right? And then finally subjectivity. Again, individual level, at my personal capacity, my value system is different, your morality is different, another person moral values are different. So there is a factor of subjectivity also at individual level. The interpretation of various virtues, it is also there might be, when there is a differentiation. For me, hard work is a virtue. For you, smart work is a virtue. So there is a kind of conflict here. So this is going to lead to the ethical disagreement. So these are some of the criticism of virtue approach. I think this is it. These are the 5 ways to resolve ethical dilemma. Go through with that one more time. Yet this particular thing, it is quite confusing. Understand this resolution, how to resolve the ethical dilemmas. You can apply this to case studies. It is going to help you in answering case studies. At the conclusion, if you write that I am following this virtue based, utilitarianism based, or common good approach, this is going to fetch you a very good marks, and it shows that you have a very strong understanding with respect to ethical concepts. And this is it for a day. I'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you so much. Please subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good time.